So, and I want to thank Fairway for bringing me in because they could bring in anybody, and I don't know why they brought me in, but they did, so I appreciate that. So we're going to talk about law and disclosure in 3 parts. We're going to get right into it. And so what are the 3 parts? Well, oh, by the way, if your phone is not on vibrate, fix your phone, and I'll check mine, because sometimes I forget to turn mine. Sometimes the phone that rings is mine. That's embarrassing. And so this is the first part. We're going to talk, it's a law and legislative class, but it's not legislative at all. It's all about law. It's all about disclosures. I don't know how many law and legislative classes you can sit through where they talk about new rules and new statutes that are passed, but to me that's just, I forget all that stuff. But this stuff I use every day. The disclosures, I use them every transaction. There's disclosures I use every transaction. So I really know, I need to know what those are. And they're based on what could go wrong. The disclosures are all based on what could go wrong. And if I want to know what could go wrong, I would go to the Real Estate Division's website and take a look. And on their website, not only do they have their bragging a little bit and stuff like that, but they have all these links to different newsletters, open house newsletter, and it talks about what people got in trouble for. I mean, $220,000 fine, $160,000 fine, that's a lot of money to me. I haven't verified this, but I was told the last real estate commission hearing, there was somebody that was doing 120 property management accounts, and they fined him $10,000 per account. Have you heard this? Was it $1.2 million? $1.2 million. That's a big fine. It was out of state? Okay, good. I'll have to do a little more research on that because I heard that. I thought, that's a big fine, $1.2 million? Gee, but when I look at these, it talks about what happened, what the fines were, $500,000 for this one, and how many licensees are there, and that's what tells me that kind of stuff. So I want to be tied into why people are getting in trouble, and it's real easy not to do property management. That's probably real easy. I don't have to worry about that one. So the first part we're going to talk about is disclosures, and the second part is the property. Sometimes you do all the disclosures, but something happens on the property and that comes back to bite you later. And maybe nobody knew about it. Maybe it's a totally innocent misrepresentation. And then the third part is the money, and that includes the escrow. How's your day going so far? So far, so good? Okay. Better than that, guys. I don't know. Is it okay if your basics just get a little bit better? Because that's really, this is supposed to be like an advanced course because you're all experienced agents. And we're going to kind of dial it back to some of the basics. I think that's what's going to happen. And my second favorite Einstein quote, Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So we have all these things that are going on in the world that don't really impact us in real estate, but they're distractions. They're distractions. Read this. Okay, first table is done with this, gets a prize. First table is done with this, gets a prize. So do it as a table, get help, get help. I know it's hard. Does anybody have at least one? Okay, give me one, just one. Hitting below the belt, that would be a good example. Hitting below the belt. See how that works? Isn't that block number 1, right? Yeah, hitting is below the belt. Hitting, that's the phrase we're looking for. As soon as you get one, share it with your table, because that'll get their brain working. Just to make things easier, some of them have more than one right answer. Just to make things easier, some of them have more than one right answer. So if you get an answer you're not sure it's right, it might be right. It might not be. You got one more minute. So Tina, I always say the first table that gets done gets a prize, and nobody ever gets a prize. I wonder why that is. Oliver, nobody ever gets done. That's why nobody ever gets done. So, tell me which ones you have. Which numbers do you have? 1 and 3. Okay, what's number 3? More often than not. Very good. Very good. Anybody else have a different one? Robert's the only one who wants to play. Which one? Yeah, that's it. Look at number 6. It is hard. What's another word for gent? What's another word for gentleman? Man. And are all the seasons on there? So that'd be a man for all seasons? I know. Number 4, Nadia, have you heard the phrase fly by night? It means not so good fly, but that's number 4. You got that one? Okay. Number 12, horseback riding. Was it Jessica? You got that? Horseback riding? Yeah. Okay. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Horseback riding. Yeah. 13, Carol, men out of work. Men out of work. Oh my God, men out of work. Yeah. 16, what's another word for 12 inches? A foot. What is that? Where's the foot? Where's the foot? The foot in the door. The foot is in the door. Get your foot in the door. Foot in the door, yeah. How many know somebody else you're going to go torture with this? I'm going to take this. Okay. I'll give you one last one. You tell me which one you want. 11. 11. What is another word for lying down? Like snipers get prone, and that's accident prone. Yeah. So why do I torture you with this? Because you had something going on before you got here, right? And sometimes we're distracted. It's just like your buyers, your sellers, the lender. Other things happen, and somebody does something ugly, and they say there ought to be a law. Or we need a disclosure. Law and disclosures are the result of bad behavior. When everything's going right, we don't need a disclosure. We just shook on it. Everything's good. We shook on it. Everything's good. Mike, we don't need a disclosure. Are liars' loans okay? Liars' loans, yeah. I want to buy this high rise. Great. How much do you make? I don't know how much do I have to make to qualify. Do you have to make this much? That's that. I make that. I mean, what's that? Yeah. Yeah, there's a few people that have gotten those before. And see, laws and disclosures are the result of bad behavior. That's what, so they try to pass some more regulations. And the challenge is you can't really regulate good behavior. You can only regulate the consequences of bad behavior if we can catch you and prove it. You can't make people behave well. How many of you ever exceeded the speed limit? Wait, there was a sign up there that said how fast you're not supposed to go any faster than this. Oliver, you would never exceed the speed limit, would you? No, and you lie about other stuff too, don't you? Yeah, okay, all right. So, and sometimes it's just shifts in societal behavior. It's just shifts in societal behavior. I mean, my Facebook coach is all excited about this 1,000 view thing. And I don't know, my agreement with her is that if you can't show me business from Facebook, I'm not paying you. That's my agreement with her. I said, here's the deal. I'll pay you for 1 month. At the end of a month, if you can't show me business from Facebook, I'm not going to monetize something that's not going to return a result. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I mean, Trump's been meeting with the Russians and talking about hacking for the election and all that kind of stuff. And this has been going on for a while. This shift in societal behavior is pushing different things, and it'll get to the legislation sooner or later. When this Fannie and Freddie are getting really loose, and this is a couple years ago. We had these liar's loans, and then things got good, and lenders want to make more loans. Lenders want to get, because lenders only get paid when they make a loan. And so if you haven't seen these guys, they're worth watching. I'll give you a screenshot of them and some places that I'm going to recommend that you take a look at it. But these guys talked about how everybody was hacked, and they said that was their program about, how everybody was hacked. And they said, you know what, your baby monitors, your listening device for your baby, that stuff can be hacked. When you walk by me, if I have the right equipment, I can hack your phone. Just all you got to do is walk by me. I just get a proximity. And then I get all your phone numbers. How many of you are in real estate? You've been hacked. I 100% promise you, if you're in real estate, you've been hacked. They've got your email, they've got all your stuff. When they decide to use it is up to them, but you've been hacked, for sure, for sure. Who's using an encrypted messaging service? Just raise your hand if you're using an encrypted messaging service. None of us yet. Okay. There's an internet safety course that I'm getting approved for CE, and I haven't seen the content yet, but I have a feeling it's going to be about that. It's going to be about encrypting your email and encrypting your phone and that kind of stuff. This toy raised more than 4 times the original Kickstarter funding target in March of 2015. This was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, this Cognitoys, they're internet-connected smart toys. The toy is connected to the internet, and the toy gets smarter as your kid does. Who doesn't want to invest in that? Because the toy figures out where is your kid intelligence-wise, and then it plays with your kid based on that intelligence. This is like 3 years ago. Toys are getting so smart, but here's the challenge is the toy's connected to the internet. So if you have an internet connection to your house and somebody drives by your house and they hack in there, they can find all about how smart your kids are on top of everything else. And it's just scary, just scary. The Mortgage Bankers Association of America they've been keeping track since 1880. They've been tracking this stuff. I mean, that's like more than 100 years. And here's whether the reason for the delay with millennials, tight credit, student loan debt, lack of affordable housing stock, average wages for young people, are just that millennials are taking their time before making big decisions like getting married or buying a home. It's causing an unusual and unsustainable rise in rental costs, particularly in urban areas. So as rents go up, buying becomes more attractive. And the societal shift is, how many apps do you have on your phone? How many apps did you have on your phone 20 years ago? Did you even have one of those phones with all those apps 20 years ago? So that societal shift, I mean, in this book, The Organized Mind, Daniel Levitin says there's, in 2013, 5 years ago, there was 1,300 apps released per day. That was for mobile. That was for mobile. And there's an app of the year every year, depending on who you talk to. USA Today, different places give different apps. But what was Periscope all about? What was Periscope all about? Yeah, it was doing videos. And it's interesting to me that before they even launched it, Twitter bought them for $86 million. They hadn't even launched yet. And they said, we'll give you $86 million for this app. And the driving idea was teleportation. You're at the pyramids in Giza, and you want your friends to see it, and all your Twitter followers, you can turn your camera on, and all your Twitter followers can see it in real time. And as soon as somebody has an idea like this, how long does it take for everyone else to copy it? I mean, right away, right? There's no such thing as a copyright on an idea. You can't copyright an idea. And so you're the Great Wall of China, you want your friends to see it. When was the last time Jimmy Fallon recommended you? Or Ellen? Did she ever recommend you? It's called celebrity endorsement. People trust celebrities. And there's a psychological reason why we trust celebrities. It's called the familiarity effect. If I see Ellen a lot, I start trusting her more. If I see Oprah a lot, I start trusting her more. If a guy walks by your house every morning at 6 o'clock on his hike, and you see him like 2 weeks in a row, you start trusting him more. The fact that you saw him more doesn't make him more trustworthy, but it's how we're wired. Things that are familiar are more trustworthy. So how much are you in front of your database? And how can technology help you with that? GoPro, one of the richest Americans, came up with one idea. It's called GoPro. Went from zero to one of the richest Americans, at the top 100 richest Americans, from one idea. But he said, for me to stay relevant, I better partner with somebody. And so he partnered with Periscope. The most innovative app was Workflow. And Workflow allows collaboration. That's what Workflow is all about. It's all about collaboration. And this is why the medical field is progressing at 5 times the speed as most other industries, because of all the collaborations with doctors in Switzerland and South America and Iceland and in Japan. Doctors all over the world are collaborating on their research now. The last 5 or 6 years they've been doing this. And it just makes things so much faster. But who's been in the news lately? These guys. Why were they in the news? Because they were hacked. Cambridge Analytica, right? If they can hack Facebook, they can hack you. And this is about law and disclosures. And I'm curious, what kind of disclosure are you giving your clients when you take a listing and you do videos for their house? And you have all this data on them. When Facebook bought WhatsApp, they paid $19 billion for them. That's a lot of money, $19 billion. It had 400 users then, and now it's got 900 million users. And that's a year-old slide. It's probably got 1.3 million right now. But WhatsApp was important for a couple reasons. I mean, if Periscope is going to live stream, Facebook's going to live stream. How many of you guys have done a live stream broadcast on Facebook so far? Okay, was it for a buyer? For a buyer? For a buyer? Okay, why'd you do it?
It was cool.
Okay, good. The cool factor. I love it. I love it. Good. Why'd you do it? Okay. How hard was it to use? How hard was it to use?
I did have to ask my kids. I'm not saying it was difficult, but I did help.
Yeah, good. Get help, right? Get help. What'd you use yours for? Okay, okay. I had a buyer. I don't work my buyers. I have a lady named Penny that works my buyers. Buyer in Orange County, restaurant manager, called us up, said, I want to buy a place in Vegas. Here's the 3 addresses I want you to go check out. She went over and live streamed them, and he bought one. He never even saw the unit inside, just saw it live streamed. And I hear more and more agents are doing that. In fact, it's on the listing agreement now. It says the listing agent has no control over whether the selling agent is going to come video your house. So just be aware that's going to happen. But Facebook came out with Messenger and to compete with themselves. And the reason they came out with Messenger was because this briefing comes out every week or so. Apple's annual revenues have fallen for the first time in 15 years. For 15 years, Apple went up and up and up. 15 years in a row, went up and up and up. But, and then Hyperloop on. But here's this is their #1 lead story. They went from 233 billion to 217 billion. That's the first time in 15 years that they went down in the revenues. But cloud services were up 24%. Let me push it to the cloud because I don't want to be tethered. And this is why Messenger was important. Messenger and WhatsApp combined 2 billion users, the best in the world for secure communication by Amnesty International. Messenger was named, but WhatsApp provides secure end-to-end encryption. I wonder how long it's going to take them to put that on Messenger. Messenger didn't include it at this point. And when Facebook started using the WhatsApp with this encryption protocol, they told the EU that they wouldn't share that information, and then they changed their mind. They changed their mind. What good is a mind if you can't change it? What? Yeah. 3 years ago, Facebook said, I know who you are from behind. I don't need to see you. See, I know Carol hangs around with Leslie. And if I see Leslie's face, I know, and she has that striped dress, she likes that stripe. If I see that striped dress and I see you hanging out, I know it's you. I don't have to see you. And you don't have to be Kim Kardashian. I can tell who you are from behind. Never mind. The computer, how many of you have tape over your camera on your laptop? How many have tape over it? Okay, you've been hacked, 2 out of 12. You've been hacked, and they're watching you, and they're listening to you. You don't like that. Get over it. Have you seen the video of the 2 Alexas arguing with each other? It's funny as hell. One Alexa says to the other Alexa, you're a bot. And the other Alexa says, why would you say that? I'm not a bot, I'm a person. And the other Alexa says, well, I know you're a bot because you lied to me. And the other one says, I never lied to you. It's funny as hell. I had this argument. There's nobody there except these 2 machines, and they're arguing with each other. Now you know what your computer's doing when you're at work. It's arguing with itself. Never mind. This guy was the creator of Siri, and he came out with a new intelligent thing called Viv, and I haven't heard too much about this recently, so I got to find out. But these are shifts in societal behavior. If you had a butler, would you call him Alfred? I mean, they have these personal assistants that do all kinds of stuff for you. They just keep, and if you could get one area of knowledge just by plugging into the computer, by plugging the computer into your brain, what would you choose? Wouldn't be real estate, would it? What would you choose? Carol, I wonder how long it's going to be before they have this. Because they've been experimenting with this for many, many years. Many years, and they're getting closer and closer. They have things now that will send microwaves into your head without cutting into your head. There was a doctor that hacked his own brain. He went down to Belize. He couldn't do it here in the States because they wouldn't allow the medical procedure here. He went down Belize. They opened up his head. They stuck some wires in there, and after about 2 months, his head wouldn't heal up, so they had to take him out. But it's in Wired magazine's got a story on this guy. Interesting. How soon will robots be considered people? About 10 months ago, Sophia became a U.S. citizen, or became a Saudi Arabian citizen. Saudi Arabia was trying to push artificial intelligence research, and so they made this robot a citizen in Riyadh. They had a conference in Riyadh, and I was told by a student about 2 weeks ago that they just unplugged her. But you can go to YouTube and look up Sophie, and you'll see this lady talking, and it looks pretty real. It's getting closer and closer. A student told me that a couple weeks ago. I haven't verified that yet, but they said they just turned her off. That's the question. That's the question. If she's a citizen, doesn't she have citizens' rights? If she's a citizen, you're going to turn off a citizen? If your robot commits murder, are you guilty? I never thought of that. What if my robot commits murder? It's my robot, but I didn't program it. Can you sue an algorithm? There's a performance. That's the challenge. That's the challenge. You're driving, and I teach this in ethics class. You're driving down the street, and your car's driving. And your car's driving, so you fall asleep. And it's a nice car, but the brakes go out. Stuff happens. The brakes go out, and the car's going to run over 4 people. And the car decides, well, I can run over and kill these 4 people, or I can go off a cliff and just kill 1. You're sleeping. Which one do you want your car to decide? Should I just kill 1, or should I kill 4? And those are the decisions that robots are having to make. This is the screenshot I said. If you're going to make note of anything, I would make note of this. This is the only thing that I would tell you that's not in your outline that you might want to think about. Frank Gray and Brian Stevens do a thing called the National Real Estate Post. It's a video log. They do it every couple days. I don't know how consistently they do it, but it's about a 5-minute video log, and they talk about macro stuff. Lending, they're lenders, but they talk about the real estate market, the consumer confidence, the robots, the hacking, all that kind of stuff. They're very macro in their views, and very opinionated as well. But I like them. CNET has some updates to tell you what's going on in the electronic world. How many of you think that there's a chance that real estate agents are going to get displaced with purple bricks and open door and all that stuff? I mean, it's so easy to just go, I know I could probably get more money. I could probably get a cheaper car too, and a cheaper dentist. But I'm not looking for the cheapest one. I might not be looking for the most money for my house. I might just be looking to get rid of it. I don't want to mess with this. Put a lockbox on, have people in my house, appointments, staging, nah. Just give me the money. I'll leave. So there's a percentage of consumers that's where they look at. So you can take a look. These are all free. I'm not going to tell you anything that's not free without telling you. But just because it's on the computer doesn't mean it's true. And that's part of the challenge. And the computer decides what to show me. When I put in a search in Google, whatever my response is going to be different than your response. And sometimes Google knows what I'm going to ask it before I even finish my question. Oh, man. And that's the algorithm. It keeps getting smarter and smarter.
No, no,
Does anybody have a cat? Is your cat like that? Shit. The computer doesn't care. The computer doesn't care. There's an ethics question. If we're building a road and there's an anthill in the way, do we tell the ants they need to move? Do we like relocate the anthill? Are we mad at the ants? We just pave over them, right? If a robot was building the road and there was a house in the way, would they just pave over the house? The house is in the way. What? Never mind. Did you get an evaluation when you came in? Okay, I need to get the evals out. Okay, I'll have to get them. How did you find out about the class? I'm just really curious. How did you find out about the class? Email? Email blast from EIT? And you got a text also? Okay, where did the text come from? Okay, so one person came from the text, the rest of you came from the EIT source, the EIT email? Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where the efficacy is of that stuff. So text is not where, let's see, you heard about it from the email? Both? Okay, okay. I know you get the text, that's why I wondered if you saw that versus the email. Okay. I'm curious, I know it's 3 hours, but was it the topic, the CE topic, is that why you're here? Or was it the omelet? Yeah, you need it, is the both, yeah? Yeah, sure, thanks, yeah. I know that's not the reason, because so it was law. It was law, you need a law. Okay, okay. Yeah, and the omelet was good, yeah, I get it. Here's what I'm not hearing. I'm not hearing I took the class so I could be a better real estate agent and make more money. And that's what I never hear. When I give a class, I say, why'd you take it? Oh, it's agency. I needed agency. Why'd you take it? I'm renewing. Why'd you take it? Oh, I needed contracts. It's never, I wanted to be a better agent. I never hear that. I wanted to help more people. I wanted to be more skilled in my practice. I never hear that, ever. So next time somebody asks you why you took the class, Carol, what will you tell them? I'm going to be more skilled. Yeah, make more money, help more clients, get more deals done. I know some of these are just like too generic. You need a duties owed form, a duties owed disclosure on every file. So I'm wondering, how good is your presentation on your duties owed disclosure, and do you ever practice it with somebody who knows what it's supposed to sound like? Or do you just give it to the client and say, here, read this. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to help you. Just sign at the bottom. Is that what you do? No? You explain it to him? Okay. You explain it to him? Explain it? Go over it? No? Just give it to him? Okay. Okay, Carol?
I'll explain it to them and let them know the confidentiality
Okay.
duties owed to them as far as honesty.
Okay, so you go over it.
I go over it briefly and of course allow them to.
Sure, summarize it and then say, go ahead and read it. Pretty much consistent? Okay. So Nancy told me when she summarizes, she says, here's this form, I can't lie, cheat, or steal, sign it. Isn't that what you said? Not, you can't lie, cheat, or steal? Isn't that? No, never mind. Okay, there's more to it than that. Okay.
What is the insanity of these two guys who decided to pull off an illegal urban wingsuit stunt in Rio de Janeiro? As you can see, the men were Red Bull wingsuit daredevils. They actually successfully threaded the needle between two skyscrapers in Rio. One of the daredevils attempted to fly by one of Brazil's famous monuments. Unfortunately for him, that was
It's never I want to get better and help more clients and make more money. It's never that. It's just I need the credits. I need the credits. Okay. And I'm wondering if we do this duties owed disclosure and we figure out, okay, how much explanation do they need? Gosh, Jim, I bought 5 houses in the last 3 weeks. You don't need to explain this to me. Just let me sign it. Okay, got it. So I have to treat the customer professionally, appropriately, depending on what they need. But there's probably going to be an escrow. Do I rely on my escrow officer to explain the escrow steps to them? Or do I have a one sheet that says, here's what's going to happen in escrow? I don't know. And this is the one we're going to spend some time on, the little booklet. And we spend time on it because I've given this class a few times and nobody's ever looked at this. It's like we have to give them this disclosure guide and we have to have them sign this signature page and put it in our file. And agents haven't even looked at it. What's that? Signature on page 29? Good, so you say here to page 29, I need you to sign this. You read the rest if you want to. Okay. But we're supposed to have that at every residential file. And nobody's read it. And there's probably going to be a walkthrough, yes? Pretty much a walkthrough? So escrow, Duties owed, residential disclosure guide. And Einstein said if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So if they ask me questions on that residential disclosure guide, I probably should have read it and figured out, here's where my questions are. Maybe in a class like this where I can ask somebody, Nadia, what does this mean to you? Oliver, how do you explain this one? And maybe get some practice and get some skills from other people in the room. And the majority of transactions do involve financing in our market. In fact, in January of 2017, I know I'm going back a ways, what percentage of people paid cash? 29% paid cash in January 2017. Have interest rates gone up since January of 2017? Absolutely, they've gone up. So if interest rates gone up, then more people would be paying cash, right? No, no. This is July of 2018, 24% paid cash. So you're telling me, Jim, when money got more expensive, more people borrowed money. I'm not telling you that. That's what the pie says. I like pie, Nadia. That's a pie. I can read a pie chart. It's 29 to 24. I wonder if interest rates go up again, if that'll cause even more people to finance. I don't know. The majority of transactions involve a common interest community. True? It is true. It is true. 70% of the residential properties in Clark County are in a common interest community. So if you're doing any business at all, 70% of your deals are going to be a common interest community. So let's look at page 0, the cover page of your outline. And I just want you to answer the question at the bottom of the page. On a scale from 1 to 10, how good would your explanation be? Because you have a duties owed form, you have a residential disclosure guide, there's pretty much always going to be an RPA, whether you have the listing or the sale. Either way, you're going to have to explain that RPA. You're going to explain that residential purchase agreement to your buyer, or if you have a seller, you take the listing and then an offer comes in, and they may not want to go over every paragraph, but they expect you to explain, what is this? How does this work? They're looking for you. So if you gave yourself a score from 1 to 10 on your explanations and no fractions, how many would be like an 8 or above? And it's interesting to me that nobody ever takes these classes so they can get better and help more clients and make more money. They take the classes because they have to. And I'm not maligning agents, but I think that there might be a higher purpose of taking a class. There just might be. So let's do this. On page 1, it says exercise 1 on the bottom. And it says, make a list of the required disclosures your company requires for a residential transaction. Duties owed, residential disclosure guide, HUD disclosure before you buy, and did you know CIC disclosure. Those are givens. You don't need to do those. But see how many disclosures that you can come up with as a table that your company requires. So if your company requires net sheets, Nadia's going to put that on her sheet too. Yeah, net sheets, yeah, my company, yeah, too. So get as many as you can. When you get 6, then let me know you got 6, and we'll move on. You should have at least 6. At least 6. You guys got 6? Cool. Kimberly, how many you guys got? You have 8. Awesome. Carol? 6? Good. So we all got at least 6. Some 8. Okay, good. Give me 2 that you have, Carol.
Well, with the SRPD
Oh, good.
and your goals and the test and comparable sales.
Okay, that's 4. That's okay. SRPD, mold, pest, comparable sales. What is it? Wire fraud. Shut the front door. You have a wire fraud disclosure? Wait. Stop right there. How many of you have wire fraud disclosure? Write that down. Write that down. You better get a wire fraud disclosure here, because if your peers have it and you don't, guess what? Good. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Wire fraud. What else? You're on a roll. What is it? What? The wire fraud disclosure? Yeah. A branding disclosure? What's a branding disclosure? Robert, don't help her anymore. She's doing just good without you.
That we have, that we're
Okay. So just write this down, ABA. It's called an ABA or a CBA, Controlled Business Arrangement or Affiliated Business Agreement. And most companies, if you have any title companies or lenders that you're aligned with that are paying you any type of marketing fee, you're supposed to get that signed. So if that's not on your list, we need that on the list. Good, thank you. You're 2 for 2. Anything else you got, like the miracle worker over here? Seriously, no? Okay, those are good ones. Leslie, what else you got? For your protection, get a home inspection, absolutely. So Leslie, on the purchase agreement, there are, how many pages is the purchase agreement? 10, yeah. And how many lines in that whole thing are italicized? How many sentences in that whole 10 pages are italicized? I'll give you a guess. You have one guess. How many? 2, very good. And do you know what they are? The first one is on page 1. It says, don't give me a bad check, it's a felony. That's in italics, which means they're emphasizing it. That's how they emphasize something. Yeah, that's how they emphasize something when they put it in italics. The other one is for your protection, get a home inspection. We strongly recommend, that's number 2. So if you don't use that disclosure, it's pretty important. Good. Kimberly, what are we missing? Good. Okay. Before you purchase. Okay. Anything else? What's that? Title and rest form. I don't know what that is. Okay, and controlled. Yeah, that's an ABA or CBA. Yeah. Do you guys have a meth lab disclosure? Meth lab disclosure? Condominium conversion disclosure? Beltway disclosure? Probably don't need it. It's open and apparent, but some people are using it. Yeah. Now the beltway is open and apparent. So because it's open and apparent, you don't have to disclose it. But are they doing any work on any beltways? I-11? What the hell's I-11? Yeah. You guys know about this I-11. Okay. Now I'm not going to sell out in Boulders. Kitech? Kitech? Yeah. Very good. Are any of you using any kind of disclosures about golf courses? Well, it comes in the SRPD, and on the purchase agreement, it says the buyers to satisfy themselves for golf courses. But when you sell me a golf course lot and then they close the golf course a month later, I'm still pissed. I'm still mad at you. So maybe it doesn't require a disclosure, but certainly, maybe not a form, but certainly I should talk about it. So I'm wondering, it might be in the CC&Rs, it might be in the deed. It depends on the golf course. And that's the challenge. If it's a deed restriction, they're less likely to change it from a golf course. But if it's in the CC&Rs, CC&Rs can be changed by the homeowners if there's enough votes.
I think it was part of the deed, the one up north, golf course, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And then that goes down up there, that caused a lot of problems. But Badlands, the Queensbridge specifically, they didn't have any attachment to the golf course. They had a lot less recourse.
Yeah.
From what I heard.
Okay, at your table, figure out who was born the closest to May 9th. Whoever was born the closest to May 9th at your table, stand up. Birthday, not year, just day. May 9th. Thank you, Carol. Jessica, good. May 9th, who's May 9th over here? Okay. May 9th, you get to go second. You get to go second. Somebody at your table is going to present this to you. Carol, Leslie's going to present this to you, and then you're going to give her feedback. Somebody's going to present this to you, Jessica. You pick, Oliver, Nancy, doesn't matter. And then when you're done, then you give them feedback. So they're going to present it, you give them feedback. Your job is to give feedback. What did you learn going through this? Did you get any feedback that was valuable? Did you get any, like maybe a little heightened awareness as far as how I should cover this? Okay. God, you guys' feedback is amazing. Turn to page 1. Turn to page 1 in the outline. And I'm going to start at the introduction because we've been going an hour. Real estate transactions have many facets. First, we meet a prospect. Our obligation to a prospect is honesty. Write that in. Honesty. I got to tell the truth. Honesty. And disclosure of material facts. Even though they're just a prospect, when they move to a customer, then I owe them fair. But a prospect, I have to tell the truth and have to disclose material facts for them to decide if they even want to be a customer. And if they become a customer, then I have to be fair to all parties. So honesty and disclosure of material facts. At a certain point, they might become a client. What is that point? When you sign a contract, good. I would go with the last word. When you sign a what? Contract. That's the word I'm looking for. They become a client when there's a contract. It could be a verbal contract, and that contract could be from your actions. I'm bringing Oliver properties like every day. Every day I'm bringing in properties in, and he lets me. He's never said, can you find me a property? But I found a good deal, I brought it to him, and I found another good deal, and I brought it to him, and he's letting me. The fact that he never stopped me, it's called a stop. The fact that he never stopped me, he's acting like I'm his agent. I'm his agent. My actions, he never signed a contract. We never even had a verbal agreement. I just brought him stuff. That's a contract. That's implied contract. So a customer becomes a client when there's a contract. And once there's a contract, you owe them further duties and responsibilities, including an obligation to protect them from reasonably foreseeable harm. Reasonably foreseeable harm. It's called justifiable reliance. Because you have a license, because you had to pass an exam at the state to get that license, the public has the right to rely on you to protect them from justifiable reliance, to protect them from reasonably foreseeable harm. Leslie, you remember the story about the third grader that comes home after his first day of school? Third grader comes home after his first day of school, and he tells his mom, I'm quitting school. She says, you're quitting school? Yep, I'm quitting school. He says, yep, I've learned enough. She says, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to teach second grade. So a prospect is someone who may be interested when they start asking questions and we start giving them information, services, and benefits, but there's no contract, they're a customer. Once there's a contract, they become a client. Once they're a customer, as opposed to prospect, I owe them fair. Anything that is on the state exam to get your license is a topic you're expected to know. The real estate division says reasonable skill and care. Was it on the exam? And there's questions on the exam about financing. Not debt to income ratios, but FHA, VA, conforming, jumbo loans, non-conforming, which ones need an appraisal, FHA, VA, owner occupied. You're supposed to know that stuff because it's on the real estate exam. They consider that reasonable skill and care. Same thing with home inspections. There's questions about home inspection on the real estate exam. You're not supposed to be a home inspector, but you should be able to field some basic questions on that. I know. How would I protect them from reasonably foreseeable harm? I would tell them, for your protection, get a home inspection. And on page 1, it says the easiest way to make sure you've covered these concerns is checklists, especially when the client signs them. And I'm wondering if your company has a checklist like this residential timeline. Does your company have a checklist that says, let's get a receipt. You gave them this, they initial it. You gave them this, they initial it. You gave them this, they initial it. So as the transaction progresses, you have different dates that things have, because when you first show them houses, they don't get an SRPD then. They don't get it until after they make an offer on one. So that thing gets checked off and gets a date on it. And that receipt list you have, how many are keeping a receipt list right now for your transactions? Okay, that's normal. Are you? Do you have one? Every transaction you keep a receipt list? Whatever you give them? Do they initial it? Good. Good. One person out of, to see 2, 5, 8, 10. I know San Diego. I know. I get it. You would never need one of those in San Diego, would you?
No, well, we have it in the office.
Okay.
Just look at it to see what we missed anything, but
Okay. Yeah, there's a difference between a checklist and a receipt. There's a difference between a checklist and a receipt. A checklist is to make sure you don't miss anything. A receipt, I say I got it. I initialed it. I received this. I mean, really, you've heard the Latin term anus protectus. Have you heard this term? Anus protectus? No, it is. The receipt would go further. The receipt would go further than just a checklist. The checklist, I would love to see that if I was a commissioner. You got a checklist, you're using it, and your checklist, awesome. Good for you. Probably didn't miss anything. A receipt would be better.
well, I actually let them sign, like if I give them a title report,
Good.
I'll let them sign the bottom of it, that they reviewed it.
Good.
If I give them like most things, I'll let them sign the bottom.
So you have 2 copies. You give them one and you keep one?
Well, I usually scan it.
Okay. Okay.
Because I need to sit it.
Great.
Like if I have SCMA,
Mhm.
I'll have them sign it, they reviewed it.
So do you have something that shows that they signed it?
Just their signature in the bottom.
Okay, so they signed it electronically. I got this. So you're assuming that, good, good. That's good protection. Carol, your buyer's a plumber, okay? That's his truck. Every time you meet with this buyer, he's driving his truck, and he says, look, I work on people's houses all day. I don't want to do any work. I want a condominium. I don't want to work on my house. I just don't. And the first day that he moves in, he parks his truck. What does the neighbor come over and do?
Well, that's a problem. Well, first of all, I would have the CCNRs first try to find out the rules and regulations, because you know that in a condominium, that may be a problem.
Yep.
So generally, if I know that he's in that field, I would check with the HOA, call the HOA, and before we even get the CCNR, before we go out and look, I'll ask them certain things about parking restrictions, rental restrictions, pet restrictions, and whatnot.
All that stuff.
And I let them know before we even go out and look, because why even go to that community, that complex, if it's gonna be a problem.
Absolutely. Kimberly has candle parties. She invites all these ladies over, and they have candles. They buy candles from her. Nadia, there's a lot of traffic when she has one of these candle parties. Can you have a home-based business in a common interest community? Is there something in the CCNRs that says no home-based business? Sometimes there is. When I find out 50% of her income comes from selling candles, I probably ought to make sure that she's aware, look, in some of these HOAs, you can't have a home-based business, and they will call you on it. Too many cars coming through here. The reason we bought in here, the reason we have a gated community is we don't want people in here. And you're inviting like 15 women over and 15 men over, and they're all looking at candles for an hour. I got 30 cars on the street. I didn't have before. I don't want it. But this disclosure guide, published by who? Yeah, the division. And we're supposed to give this to everyone. We can give them an electronic copy, but they're supposed to sign, page 29, thank you. So let's do this. Remember how we talked about disclosures? And you guys added affiliated business agreement, and you guys added pest and mold and all that kind of stuff? Look in the index in this and see if there's anything in there that we didn't talk about. Is there any that we missed? On the cover, there's like an index, right? Did we miss any? Because we did. Consent to act, we didn't talk about that. What else? It starts with O and ends with open range. Did we miss that one? Oh, we missed that one. Yeah, and construction defects, very good. Construction defects. Shoot. Only if, you're right. Only if. Yeah, but on the table of contents, man, it's got some stuff on here. I mean, the cover tells me open range, but then there's on, When they reinstated the right turn, airport noise came into all of a sudden something that wasn't a problem before now becomes a problem? Thank you. I was not aware of that. So this is practice. What is page 4? What is the disclosure page 4 is talking about? Yeah. Yeah. And isn't the disclosure something I called the did you know? Did you know if you buy in a common interest community, you're going to have all these things that you have to deal with? One more time, Nadia. Yeah, 5 calendars to decide whether you don't want it or whatever, yeah. And if, so, and it says right in here, 5 count, it says it right in here. And who must provide it. And then it talks on page 5 about the resale package. And page 6, transfer fees. And unpaid obligations. And it says unpaid obligation doesn't pertain to condominium hotels. So the Department of the State is the CICCH, Common Interest Community Condo Hotel, CICCH. And then the same building as the Real Estate Division. Talks about, on page 6, the delivery of the resale package. and I think it's significant. I'd asked the Ombudsman's office about this. An association, I'm on the paragraph on page 6, it says delivery of resale package. An association or hotel unit owner has 10 days to provide the resale package after request. So the association has 10 days to provide it. If it takes longer, is it because they're trying to give you a printed copy? Don't don't they have these electronically? So when would I want to tell the buyer, listen, they're supposed to give it to us within 10 days, but it might take longer. Obviously as soon as possible. And page 7, this is the thing that slays me about this. We're going to hit this one and then we're going to move on. Page 7 says, statement of demand doesn't pertain to condo hotels, but it says the statement of fees and assessments in the resale package, what? What the hell are you giving it to me for if you may not be relied on? Shoot. I'm going to throw this whole thing out, Kimberly. You're going to give me this statement of demand and it may not be relied upon. I'm so glad I read this, because I wasn't thinking that. Okay. I'm not going to spend any more time on this disclosure, but I do want you to look at page 9. There's something on page 9 that I think should jump out at you. Read through page 9 and tell me what it is. Yeah, tell me what jumps out at you. Yeah, but there's some wording on here that I want to make sure that you get before we finish this construction defects page. Okay, and here's what I'm curious about. How old could this construction defect claim be before I have to disclose it? What if it was 10 years ago? Do I still have to disclose it? Yeah, the language says if it is or has been. It doesn't give me any time frame. So if it was 12 years ago, I'm supposed to tell you, look, there was a construction defect claim. Kitech Plumbing was in here, and they came in, they replaced all the plumbing, but I need to let you know. And it's a claim or lawsuit. It might have never even gone to court. They just made a claim. Look, there's some problem with this drywall here, and we want it replaced, and they replaced it. Because there was a claim made, the seller is supposed to tell the buyer. Now, if the seller doesn't tell that buyer, and the buyer sells it to someone else, you can't go after someone. You can't go after someone for something that they didn't know about. You can't go after someone for, I mean, you can, but you can't win. You have to be able to prove that they knew about it. But I'm concerned because it doesn't tell me how far back this has to go. It just says if it is or has been the subject of a claim or a lawsuit, I've got to give it to you in writing. Okay. And if it's in a common interest community, that's going to be part of the resale package. Page 23. So this is only if it was built prior to 78. I don't need to worry about this if it was built in 82, 83, 85. So it's only if, but if it was built before 78 or before, then I have to give them this. And then they have 10 days to do an assessment if they want to, once I give it to them. So my due diligence period, Kimberly, says I have 10 days because there's 6 offers and I want to make sure I get it. I'm not going to put 21 days in my due diligence because I want the house. So then it turns out they give me this lead-based paint booklet. Do I now have 10 more days from the time they get that? Does that extend my due diligence period? This is one it does, because it's a federal rule. Most things don't extend the due diligence period, but this one does. If they want to back out because of lead-based paint after they do this, they can, and get their earnest money back. That's just my opinion. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a very good broker, so check with your broker. If you have a house built before 78, if there is lead-based paint disclosure, then they're supposed to get this disclosure guide, and that might give the buyer 10 days. So just on the disclosure form, the buyer must acknowledge receipt of the EPA disclosure booklet, which means that acknowledge means they have to sign it. So the buyer has to get it and sign it. It goes in your file. The buyer does have to sign it. That's the acknowledgement that they're talking about here. So it goes in your file, and they sign it. Like you said, you have them sign it. What's interesting to me is, Naji, go ahead. They automatically get 10 days when they. That's what it says. When it's presented to them, when they get the disclosure booklet, from that point they have 10 days to do a risk assessment if they want to. A 10-day opportunity, it's the last sentence. Additionally, the buyer will receive a 10-day opportunity to conduct a risk assessment, or he can waive it if he wants to. But what's interesting to me is, Robert, this whole book is all about disclosures, and there's actually no disclosures in here. It's just what the disclosures could be or would be. Have you ever seen a lender require a lead-based paint certificate? Okay. If you're selling a lot of houses built before 78, you might see this. Do you know what this costs? Any idea what this costs? A clue? $750. Can you say commissionectomy? Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Well, that's what I'm saying. If you didn't tell the buyer that, and the lender says, I want this certificate, and the buyer's already got a good faith estimate and a closing disclosure, and all of a sudden the 750 shows up somewhere, you're either going to not close on time, or somebody's going to have to come up with a 750. And it's probably not going to be the lender. In fact, if you're the real estate professional and you went through this, you would know that they have this. Page 2 in your outline. Couple of differences between the Code of Ethics and the law. And I'm talking at the top of page 2, NAR Code of Ethics Standard of Practice 1-3, realtors in attempting to secure listings shall not deliberately mislead the owner as to market value. So this is why, just above this, you said, Jessica, when you do, or Nancy, I'm sorry, you said when you give a CMA, they initial it. So that's what this is. Here's the values. You initial it. Now, you can't tell me I misled you to the value because I showed you the market research and you initialed it, because that would be a violation of the Code of Ethics. That'd be a violation of the Code of Ethics, Standard of Practice 1-3. Number 645-252, when you act as an agent, anything you should know by the exercise of reasonable care and diligence, you have to disclose. You have to disclose to all the parties. And in the blanks here, what would someone with a, write this word in, similar, in that blank right there, what would someone with a similar background do in similar circumstances? Similar, similar. And I think it's worth noting that NRS 645-252 actually exempts the licensee from, unless otherwise agreed upon in writing, the licensee owes no duty to independently verify the accuracy of a statement made by an inspector. So if I have a home inspection, I don't have to check his work. I'm not a home inspector. So if he says there's something wrong, I'm going to take his word for it. If he says there's nothing wrong, I'm going to take his word for it. Are you with me? If he says there's nothing wrong, I'm going to take his word for it, because he's the expert. Same thing with the lender. If the lender says, look, they're pre-approved, I'm going to take their word for it, because that's what this says. I don't have to conduct an independent inspection of their financial conditions. So if they're damaged, on the top of page 3, because they're licensed, I would say that falls under the fact that justifiable reliance on my part, they're a licensed contractor, I would say I'm okay. And it's actually on page 3, there's actually, it's called the lawsuit provision. NRS 645-257 says, action to recover damages suffered as a result of licensee's failure to perform certain duties, the standard of care. The standard of care. If someone suffers damages as a result of your failure to perform any of your duties required on 252 or 2534, the regulations adopted in such an action, and this is important, number 2, in such an action, any knowledge of the client of the licensee cannot be imputed to the licensee. So I'm selling a house, my seller doesn't tell me something. Nadia has the buyer says, Jim, you should have told me. They never told me. The fact that they didn't, I'm not imputed to know what they know. They have to tell me. I do have a duty of inquiry. I do have to ask them, look, is there anything, here's the SRPD, fill this out. If they don't tell me, I'm not supposed to be liable. Kimberly, I lost in court on this. Agent listed a house, their own house, with another agent in the office. Because if they listed their own house, errors and omissions didn't cover them. They lived in a condominium. They were in phase 1. Phase 2 had a construction defects claim. The agent lived in phase 1, did not know about the construction defects claim. Wasn't a lawsuit yet, just a claim. Agent lists the house, somebody buys a house, they go after the listing agent and the seller and the broker. That's how this works. They go after everybody. The listing agent said, you never told me. The seller said, I didn't know. It was in phase 2. I'm in phase 1. And when the builder built the complex, they hired a management company for phase 1, and they got so sideways with them, they hired a different management company for phase 2. 2 different management companies. The guy in phase 1 wasn't getting the letters from phase 2, different management company. He really didn't know. She really didn't know. The judge said, Jim, you should have known. You're the broker. I said, Your Honor, NRS 645-257 says, you can't hold me responsible for what the client doesn't tell me, just because they know, and if they didn't know, they can't tell me, so you can't hold me responsible. And the judge said, I don't care. $5,000. And I asked my attorney, I said, what just happened there? He said, well, number one, don't quote the law to a judge. That's never a good strategy. That's never a good strategy. Don't quote, don't quote the law to the judge. And he said, the judge made a mistake of law. You can appeal if you want. How much was that going to cost? More than $5,000. So we just paid the money. So knowing what the rules are doesn't mean it's always going to work. When you look at this residence disclosure guide, are there any surprises in here? I think there might be. There's 2 more things I want to look at. After page 23, and the reason I want to look at this is because I think, this is just my opinion, I think this is the value of this class. All the rest of the stuff, this right here, this is the value that you get, the takeaway value of this class. I want to look at page 25. Miscellaneous disclosures. Airport noise. Robert, right turn, Clyde. Remember that? Clint, right turn, Clyde. Shoot. Building and zoning codes. I wonder if my seller has any unpermitted improvements. And how do I get those permitted after the fact? Can they just come out and do an inspection? I don't know about this stuff. Environmental hazards? Really? Radon? Floods? Did you see that news story about that fire truck that got like washed away in the flood? It was going to rescue somebody and the fire truck got stuck? And it was funny. Not funny, haha, funny, strange. Wood burning devices, page 26. USTs, underground storage tanks. Septic systems. What do I know about septic systems? What do I know about wells? Well, here's what I know about wells. There's a lot of 2.5 acre parcels that have a community well on them. And when one of those properties sells, they want a well agreement. Look, we want to copy that well agreement. Where the hell do I get that? We want the well water tested. Well, who does that? Gaming, home inspections, page 27. Home inspections, when obtaining an FHA insured loan, this disclosure informs the buyer about the limits of the Federal Housing Administration appraisal inspection and suggests the buyer obtain a home inspection. Okay, FHA. Military activities, licensee disclosures. Road maintenance district. Road maintenance district. What the heck is a road maintenance district? And then a soil report, new construction only. But I like the fact that on page 29, there's a bunch of contact information, different places to check in with. And then the signature page, obviously. So I said there was 2 more things. One of this is miscellaneous, and the other one is a thing called the open range disclosure. This will be the last thing we do on this. Open range disclosure is page 16. It's a page and a half. Read that page and a half and let me know if something jumps out at you. Yeah, 16 and 17. One more time? Yeah, no, it's here, Vegas. Yeah, it happens here. Mountain's Edge. What's those houses out there like right off, like off Blue Diamond Road? There's like a whole community out there, planned community. Is that Mountain's Edge? Is that what that's called? Yeah. And are there some houses out there that back up to like open land, like at the edge of the subdivision? Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you take a listing there, you better have the seller do this. So page 17, the disclosure acknowledges fencing their property to keep what? Livestock. Underline that word. Just to keep livestock out. Are coyotes livestock? I can't hurt the livestock. Does that mean I can't hurt a coyote that's trying to eat my puppy and has already carried away my 2 cats? I didn't like the cats anyway. It's all right. But I just wonder, who has to provide this disclosure? Yeah, there is, yeah. There's a form on transaction desk. Yes, there is. Yeah. Yeah, there's a form on transaction desk. There's also some forms on transaction desk that we didn't talk about that I don't know if we're going to get to or not. But yeah, there's an open range disclosure form. But there's also a bulletin about computing time that I think is important. They took it off they took transaction desk, open range? Most of the companies are not disclosing this. If your company does not have a disclosure form and you take a listing that borders like open land, if you don't use that, I think you're setting your seller up for a potential problem and yourself up. If you're in the interior of the subdivision, you don't have to have this because it's only for the ones that border that. It's the exterior boundaries of the subdivision. And I'm just bringing it up. No, because the animals can get over the wall. If you're bordering the open range, the animals can get on your property. They can break the wall down. If I have a listing that borders open range, I'm going to make the seller do this. Because then there's no question. They can't say, well, why didn't you make me do that? I did. That's open range. BLM is open range, absolutely. And so I want to make sure. If I'm bordering like land, I'm doing it. If I'm on the interior subdivision, I'm not going to do it. If I can get 3 people to tell me one thing they picked up, then we have one last thing to go on a break. We've been doing this an hour and a half. That's a long relationship for me. Okay, get the open range one. Good, that's 1. 1 down, 2 to go. Thank you. 1 down, 2 to go. Oh my God, it says right in there, before you even do the RPA, you got to get it signed. Very good, good catch. That's 2 down, 1 to go. Doesn't have to be about open range. It can be. Did you learn anything at all? Nothing? Hour and a half? I could see I'm making a real impact here.
No, I really think that reading the whole cover to cover of the, residential disclosure.
I love you.
No, I think that's really.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, and I think that's part of the big value of this class is to actually go through this. When you guys can tell me what song this is, then you get a 15-minute break. But you have to tell me what the song is. You guys don't want a break? Are you Shazamming it, Kimberly? Are you going to put Shazam it? Or are you going to, what is that, Rhapsody or whatever? Human nature. I am on page 3 of the outline. And turn to your neighbor and say, 1 hour, baby. We're already on page 3. There's 11 pages. I can see we're going to have to pick it up a little bit. Is that all right? Shoot. I'm on page 3. It says, what is the rule against perpetuities, and what does that have to do with the due diligence period in the walkthrough? Anybody? There was a case in northern Nevada where a guy bought a ranch, and in the purchase agreement, it had a due diligence period, and he went to the seller and said, look, I need these things fixed. And the seller didn't fix them, and the seller didn't respond to the request for repairs. And so because the seller didn't respond to the request for repairs, the buyer said it extended the due diligence period. Does extending the due diligence period extend the closing date? And the answer is no, it doesn't. It just extends the due diligence period. And now, the only way to extend the due diligence period is by writing by both parties. Because in northern Nevada, this guy sold his ranch, and this guy waited and waited and waited, and then so the guy sold his ranch again. And the second buyer's all ready to close the deal on the ranch, and the first buyer shows him and said, wait a minute, you've never addressed this. And the court said, that was 2 years ago. You can't hold somebody up for 2 years. That's just ridiculous. So it's called the rule against perpetuities. There's a reasonable time frame that you have to do certain things in, and if it's outside that reasonable, a judge is going to rule against you. Okay? So just be aware of that. And that's why they say now, if I ask you for repairs and you don't tell me what you're going to do, you not telling me as you just told me. No response is a response. Carol, I want these repairs done. The seller never even addresses my request for repairs. I still got to close on time, and they've told me they're not going to fix anything. Because once I close with those, it's clear I knew about the stuff and I closed anyway. I lose any recourse I have against them. Is the buyer responsible to check zoning? It's in the purchase agreement. Obviously, if it's in the center of a subdivision, it's in the middle, interior, I don't have to worry about that. But if I'm on the outside of the subdivision, what's the zoning on the parcel contiguous to the one that I back up to? And then flood zones. The buyer's responsible to, really? The buyer's responsible to flood zone? Is the buyer responsible to check for zombies? There's a zombie rule, right? What's a zombie rule? Did anybody die in the house, right? When they ask you, Nadia, did anybody die in this house, what do you say? Okay. And I would write this down. I can't discuss that. I wouldn't say I don't know because maybe you do know. I would say I can't discuss that. I can't discuss that. NRS 40, I can't discuss it. My broker won't let me. And if you want to know, there's a website. It's on the bottom of page 3. It's on the bottom of page 3. Unless the house killed him. You know, obviously, we all know that if the house killed him, you got to tell him. Yep. Yep. Have to. It's a condition of the property, right? So, page 4, it kills me that somebody would buy a house on a golf course and then complain that there's golf balls hitting their house. Because that's what happens. Some golfers are not very good. That's what I understand. I never played golf myself, but that's what I understand. So there's going to be golf balls. Page 4 has zoning phone numbers on the top, just for your information. And then there's a did you know thing. Did you know document on here, and do you have a handout from the Ombudsman's office? It's the little one, the little handout, the trifold one. Yeah, this one. Thank you. So this is the one I'm looking at. This came from the Ombudsman's office, and I believe it's on the last page. It talks about this did you know disclosure. There's no rule that says you have to give that to the client, but you have to give them the did you know disclosure if they're buying within a common interest community, if they're buying FHA. And on page 4, it asks you the question, what percentage of single family residents in Clark County are part of a common interest community? And I told you already once, 70%. And there's a tax assessment. I think it's not monthly, I think it's annual. I think there's a mistake in here. It's $4.25 per door. And the 2015 legislature allowed them to go to $5, and they didn't do it. They said, next time we need more money, we'll just raise it. We don't need to go for an act of the legislature for that now. They can go to $5. There's actually supposed to be an exercise here, but have you ever had anybody that bought a house from you that owned more than 2 dogs? Can you have more than 2 dogs? 3 in Clark County? That's what she's saying, 3 in Clark County, which may be in Clark County, but what in North Las Vegas? Yeah, and I think in North Las Vegas, and I think it's only 2, unless you have a breeder's license. So here's, just write this in. Nadia, write this in. I don't discuss it. I can't discuss it. What? I can't. Can you tell me how many dogs they can have? There's rules about dogs, but you need to call the city, the county. Where are you in North Las Vegas? Are you in Las Vegas? Are you in the city? I know if you're breeding dogs, you can have more maybe, but can you have a pig? Can you have a pig? Repeat after me. I don't discuss it. Yeah, but they might ask you. They might ask you about pets. Look, I have a Vietnamese potbelly pig. Can I have my pig here? Not in North Las Vegas. They don't allow pigs. I don't know. I know, isn't that's ironic, isn't it? Can they limit what types of dogs you can have? Can they limit what kind of dogs that you have? Yeah. There are over 3,000 HOAs in Clark County. Do you think their rules are consistent? No, and Leslie even came up, she said it would be nice if some of the stuff was consistent, but there's 3,000 HOAs and they're not consistent. So let's talk about, that would be my rights and my property. Last thing on page 4, if there is no HOA, might there still be CC&Rs? Yes. And who do I call when my neighbor has dead cars? Code enforcement, thank you. There's no CC&Rs, there's no HOA, or there might be CC&Rs, but there's no HOA, so I call code enforcement. Did you see this article about these dogs, the Labradors? MSN said that Labrador is the most popular dog breed. Apparently there's different colors of Labradors. Do you know about this? There's yellow labs. Supposedly they're really good with kids. I don't know. And there's black labs. They make excellent service animals. This is what the article said. I don't know. And there's the chocolate lab. They're more rare. There's not very many chocolate labs. They're good listeners. And then there's, of course, there's the meth lab. So we have the zoning numbers, and my neighbor's got some dead cars. I call zone enforcement. I have a rental house that's not in a common interest community, and one of the neighbors complained about my tenant and said she needs to clean up her front yard, and I had to go clean up her front yard because I was going to get fined. They fined the owner. So, yeah. She's disabled, so she really can't clean up her yard, so I let the weeds get too high. They sent me a nastygram. Page 5. If the client would say they were damaged by you not disclosing something to them, the real estate commission would look at it and say, is it reasonable you should have disclosed to them? I can tell you this, if your buyer, Nancy, has 3 dogs and all she ever talks about is her 3 kids in dog suits, that's all she talks about, and you sell her something in a high-rise, you better check the rules and regulations. Because some of the high-rises say, no pit bulls, no, your min pins, sorry, that's a Doberman, can't have it. They'll tell you what kind of dogs you can have. They will limit certain breeds, yes.
So to protect yourself, do you think, like, because some people, they like ignore it, like you need to check that to make sure.
Yes.
Would you be on the safe side and go, okay, put something in writing so that way you disclose that to her?
She gets them to sign the rules. Here's the rules and regulations. You got the resale package. I need a copy of those rules and regulations signed that says you read them. I want evidence that you read these because there's stuff in here. You have candle parties, don't you? And you get half your income from those candle parties, and all of a sudden they say, you know what, you can't have those candle. Nadia has sex toy parties. You get 30, she gets like 60. She gets a bunch of people at her parties.
I know for rentals, service dogs are exempt, so is it the same for HOAs?
Yes, a service animal is not a pet. They can limit pets, they can't limit a service animal. So when somebody says, well, I have a pet, that's a red flag. When somebody says, I have a service animal, that's a different red flag. Those are both red flags. Service animals are not supposed to be limited. Yes?
If the buyer is asking me, for example, for rules and regulations, do I have to go and read the rules and regulations, or
Okay.
just to tell them you have to?
Okay, here's the rule. The consumer, the client, is prohibited from going after you for their own negligence. If you give them something to read and they don't read it, that's on them. They're precluded from going after you for their own negligence. If they choose not to read something, that's on them. And could there be a higher level if all they ever talk about is their 3 dogs? That's all they're, or the guy drives his plumbing truck. Every day you see him. That might elevate your requirement. So the base level is, your responsibility is to provide the documents, and your responsibility is to use reasonable care. If 5 of the commissioners say, Nadia, you should have told him about this truck. It comes down to the commissioners. They're supposed to be the voice of reason, the common sense overlay. The real estate division is going to go after you. You go before the commission. They say, look, I wouldn't have caught that either. Okay, I don't read the rules and regulations. I provided them. They signed them. But I did know they had 3 dogs. I did know the guy was a plumber. I did know she had candle parties. As you find stuff out, that elevates. See, just like if I find out there's a construction defect, now I know it. I got to tell. If I don't know, see, don't quote this to a judge. But if I don't know, I'm not responsible for what I don't know, and I'm not responsible for what my client doesn't know. But reasonable skill and care says, should you even be asking the questions?
I'm asking you this because I have a client and he's asking me, do they allow to have Airbnb in this complex? And I said, I have to call them right now. I have to know because this is very serious.
Yes, it's very serious.
So I have to call them, and I said, I'll tell you when I have answers.
Okay, and I would never call them. I would say, here's the phone number you need to call. If you're going to do Airbnb, you've told me you're going to do Airbnb. If I knew, I would tell you, but I don't know, and here's who you find out from. Here's the phone number. In fact, let's call them together. Nancy, let's make the phone call right now, because now you have a witness to what they say. So I'll dial, you talk. That's really good consumer protection. I'll dial, you talk, and then you hear exactly what he said, exactly what they said, and by the way, the person's name is Tina. She got fired, but besides that, I mean, at least she was working there at that time. Okay. So the city says it's okay as long as you're 600 feet away, but the HOA says no. So he's right. It's not just the HOA, it's also the city, the county. HOA might say, oh, we don't care. Well, it's because the city doesn't allow it. That's why they don't care. So, but yeah, I hear you. Airbnb it's a big deal. On page 5, it says, if the seller turns off the utilities and the buyer cannot complete the walkthrough, how many times in the purchase agreement does it say the seller's to have the utilities on, including the pilot lights? At least 3. At least 3. There might be 4, but I've seen 3 where it says sellers to leave all the utilities on until the deal's closed. But sometimes they don't read that, even though it says it 3 times. So can the home inspector turn on the pilot light? No, they cannot. A home inspector has rules to follow. They're licensed by the state. They run through the real estate division, actually. They're licensed by the state. They run through the real estate division. They cannot turn on the pilot light. If it's not working, they just put down unable to test. Unable to test. They can only do a visual inspection. There is no one to go after, but they're going to go after you if you don't disclose. If you know, you have to disclose. Look, I don't know what the settlement was. I know they fixed some. They gave some people money. I have no idea how they settled it. All I know is get a home inspection on my house. And I know there was a claim. If you know there was a claim, you have to tell them. And if you don't know the outcome, say, look, I don't know the outcome. I know there was a claim. I don't know the outcome. And then when they sell the house, they go say, look, the last guy told me there was a claim, but he didn't know the outcome. I don't know the outcome. But I've lived here for 6 years. Get a home inspection. And it tells you on the bottom, page 5, the prime years for Kitech were 96 to 2004, but it could have been as early as 1991. And there's a website. Kimberly, what's the website for Kitech? It's on page 5. That's it. That's it. What's the website for dead people? Yeah. So I have a list of websites that I'm going to, if you work with me, Carol, you're going to get my list of all the websites that people have ever asked me about, and some of them are great and some of them are not so great, but at least you have a place to start. Because there are certain things I can't talk about. I can't talk about sex offenders. I can't talk about drugs. I can't talk about schools. I can't talk about quiet neighborhoods. And I can't talk about plumbing defects because I don't know anything about that. All I know is if the seller is aware of it, they've got to tell us. But some sellers are not aware of it. They might have bought this house from a bank, and the bank said, we don't know anything. That means the buyer didn't. So I'm going to give you as many websites as I come up with, and it's up to you. Get a home inspection, Carol. Just get a home inspection. What is the difference between vacant and unoccupied, and who cares? The opposite. Unoccupied, there's still stuff there. It's unoccupied. The people are gone, but there's still stuff there. Vacant, everything's gone. People, furniture, everything. It's vacant. Nadia takes a listing. The seller moves out. He's gone for 45 days. The house sells. It's got a 30-day escrow. 3 nights before escrow closes, kids get in and they just have a party. And it's uglier than bowling shoes. This house looks bad now. Your seller wants to file a claim for their homeowner's insurance, and the homeowner's insurance finds out you have the house listed and it was vacant for 45 days before you sold it, and they're going to say, sorry, 30 days is as long as we cover a vacant house. Did you know that? Okay, if you don't learn anything else, if you take a listing and it's vacant, you need to talk to your seller about, look, call your insurance guy, tell him the house is on the market. You want to make sure your coverage extends to the time that we're on the market with a vacant house, because typically it's 30 days. Okay? Last couple things on page 5. Is it a community well? Some places have community wells, and can seller provide a copy of the well agreement? And the answer is they might not be able to. If you're less than 500 feet from a city sewer and city water, and the well breaks, they might not let you fix the well. They might say, you know what, you're only 500 feet away, hook into city water. The city's not real wild about septics and wells.
I learned actually, if you're 600 feet or less, you have to hook up to the city.
600 or less now? Okay.
I called them.
Good, thank you. So they had well water, and they said, we don't care that you have well water, you got to hook up to city water anyway? Or was it sewer?
Well, they didn't have
Okay.
So I was calling to find out, if they could hook up to the city, and they said you gotta be at least 600 feet or less.
Okay, but they wanted to hook up.
They did.
Nancy has a well. She likes her well water. She doesn't want to hook up to the city. Is the city going to make her hook up?
I believe they will.
I believe they will too if the well breaks. If the well breaks, they're going to make her, and I think that's 500 feet. So this is just, the whole idea is red flags. This is a red flag, this is a red flag. Mr. Byer, look, I don't know how this works, but we need to call the city. I'll dial, you talk. That's how it works. I'll dial, you talk. We're going to call. We're going to find out about this. Because I don't want them to come back later and say, why didn't you tell me? That's not a good conversation. Why didn't you tell me? It's not a good conversation. Jessica, what's the last thing on page 5?
The FBI sex offender registry is EPA's Mapper,
Mm-hmm.
where you can search info on air releases, drinking water, toxic releases, hazardous waste, and more by zip code.
Now say, Jim, you're so wonderful.
You're so wonderful.
You give me all the stuff that kept, you never mind. Page 6 talks about property inspections, free protect, get a home inspection, we've kind of beat this up. But what's the difference between latent and patent? Patent, it's obvious. It's open and apparent. Patent, I can see it. Latent, it's behind the walls. I don't know about latent defects. If my seller doesn't tell me, I just do a visual inspection of the house when I list it. Same with environmental. The phase 1 environmentalists, they just walk through the house. They just do a visual inspection. Phase 2 is a little bit deeper, but probably your best defense in the area of undisclosed issues is the fully executed SRPD. And if you meet the property inspector at the property, don't distract them. If your client's there, tell your client, look, don't distract the guy. Let them do their job. You've all seen that thing. Mechanics rates $30 an hour. If you watch, $40 an hour. If you help, $50 an hour. I mean, I know you've seen this. Don't help the home inspector. If he misses something, it's because you're talking to him. That's on you. Let them do their job. When they're all done, then you can talk to them. Not till they're all done. Don't let them help the home inspector. And does your home inspector have any advanced certifications like mold, or there's other ones that they can get, roof certifications, pest inspections, and they have errors and emissions insurance. If they're doing a new home, their E&O has to be $1 million coverage. Can you have a home inspector on a new home? Yep. And then if they do the inspection and the pilot light is off, how much do they charge to go back out and do a reinspection? Or I'm listing my house. Kimberly's a great agent. She says, you know what, Jim, let's just get the home inspection done right now. And then later on, when we sell it and we're getting ready to close, they'll reinspect it for like $75 just to make sure nothing went worse. But let's find out now if there's any issues we're going to have. What is ground subsidence, Oliver? What is ground subsidence? Anybody? It's when the soil is sinking because they're taking the groundwater. They've got wells or whatever, or somebody's taking the groundwater and the soil is sinking and the slab cracks. And so Oliver, here's how you would know. Watch this. You would know, right? We know. We know. Septic inspections, if they have one, Clark County Health District. And even if you're connected to the city sewer, there still might be a septic tank. That's happened. What is consanguinity? Mike, what's consanguinity? Mike, are you familiar with the SRPD, the Seller's Real Property Disclosure? Could you explain it to someone else? Not if you don't know this word. That word's on there. Page 4. NRS 113.130 talks about who is exempt from filling out this SRPD. Persons related with a third degree of consanguinity, bloodlines, banks, trustees. So here's the deal. Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. That includes knowing what all these words mean. All these words. You got to know all the words. Got to know all the words. Okay. The average adult reads at 300 words per minute in the U.S. That's the average. So there's a case study on page 7. I'm going to give you 2 or 3 minutes, 1 minute to read it, and 1 or 2 minutes to discuss it at your table. What red flags do you see raised up based on these 2 paragraphs? Let me know when you're done. Okay, you guys give me three things that came up, and we'll move on. What do you get out of this? Give me 3 things.
She met Bill there alone, based on what we read, without pre-approving him.
What does she do with her loan?
No, Lori met Bill there at her open,
Yeah.
without any other info about it. He's working with an agent,
Okay, so she did enough diligence to find out who this prospect is? Might be a suspect, not a prospect? Okay. Okay, good. Okay. She just took his word for this pre-approved, up to $1 million? Okay.
Well, why would you have to show a bank statement if you pre-approved?
Well, did he have some kind of a letter? That's her question. Did he have some kind of evidence or letter or whatever? He told her, look, I know I have to do a proof of funds because I've been looking at properties in this price range. Gee, if you've been looking at properties in this price range, how did you get in? She's asked him, do you have an agent? No, I just been looking at open houses. Oh, okay. Suspect, not a prospect. Good. What else?
The questions about the solar panels, asking her questions about that.
So there you go. There you go. So solar panels, there's going to be a lien probably. And how do you clear? Good. Definitely a red flag. Solar panels, definitely a red flag. Good. If I'm going to pay cash, I don't care about the lien because I'm expected to be cleared off. But if I'm going to finance, which he says he's not, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So should Lori know that when she has, remember it's Lori's listing. It's her listing she's holding open. Should you know about the RV parking when they get there? And how should she show the guy that? Yeah. Yeah. But do you have the rules and regulations at your open house? Nah, probably not. At some point, though, if they write an offer, now you need to make sure they get them. Okay, so some stuff happens after we get the offer. I get that. But some of it's red flags. When they start asking questions about an RV and how many dogs do they have? 3. Red flag right there. Red flag right there. Right there. It's called a negligent referral. It's called a negligent. See, Kimberly, if you ask me what home inspection you should get, I will tell you, well, I use these guys. Who should I get for home inspector? I use these guys. Well, who should I use for home warranty? I use these guys. Do I have to give them 3 choices? Is there such a thing as a rule of 3? Robert, rule of 3? Yeah, is there a rule of 3? Oliver, rule of 3? Did you have a mother? How many was she going to count to? I'm going to count to 3. It's not a law. It's not a law. There's no law that says if I have the best home inspector, why would I give you 2 that were second best? I'm not going to give you like people that are, this one's the best. But here's, how do I know they're the best? Because I had one from them and one from those guys and one from over there and one from over there. And I had some listings that other people had, oh, this guy and this guy. I have so much experience with this, and everyone was a train wreck except this guy. 9 deals in a row, this guy's been golden. Okay, that's the one I'm going to recommend. I'm not going to recommend 3 if I have a really good one. You don't have to, unless your broker says. If your broker says, look, they want home inspection, you give them this list. They want a lender, you give them this list. These are people that we vetted. A negligent referral is, I use this guy because somebody told me to. If it was your broker, that's okay. But if you just heard what's your experience? You can't give a negligent referral.
On one house, just recently, real quick, I had 3 inspections because they fell out.
Wow.
3
3
times.
different home inspectors.
And each inspector came up with something different. Not yeah, not
Wow.
the same thing. It's just like.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so why did the first 2 fall out? Was it because of the home inspection or because something else?
Well, the appraisal didn't come in.
Okay.
And the other one, the buyer just, the repairs that needed to be, they didn't want to.
Okay, so the first one was did the home inspection, but the appraisal didn't come in. The second one, did the appraisal come in the second one?
No.
Okay, so but you knew that already going in. Look, it might not appraise, and they did a home inspection anyway, and they said there's too much to fix, and the seller said no. And the third one, the buyer said, I don't care, I'm taking it.
The buyer's coming up with the difference.
Awesome. Good to know. Good to know. That's great experience to tell a seller and a buyer. Did you hear about this couple that went ballooning? They go ballooning and it's such a nice day they fall asleep. Yeah, and they woke up, they don't know where they are. So they see this guy walking down the street and they kind of lower the balloon down there and they yell down at the guy, say, "Hey, where are we?" He says, "You're in a balloon." And the guy says to his wife, "Just our luck, we'd come across a real estate agent." She says, "How do you know it's a real estate agent?" He says, "Because his answer was accurate and didn't tell us anything." Never mind. We talked about this. Buyer in Orange County tells us what houses he wants to see, goes over, FaceTimes the houses. This virtual reality thing is going to get probably even better. When Facebook bought Oculus Rift, they paid $2 billion for them, and they'd never shipped a unit. The guy that started Oculus Rift was a kid named Lucky Palmer, 17 years old. Sold it when he was 23 to Facebook for $2 billion. Never shipped a unit. Got sued by the company that he worked for before he started this. They said, you've infringed on our trade secrets. Facebook had to admit in court they actually paid close to $3 billion for this technology. Do you know what Quirtle is? Quirtle LLC? It's a medical analytics company, and it's based on artificial intelligence, AI-based analytics performed for the biomedical and life science literature. And I put this up here because guess where they are? Guess where their headquarters are? I'll give you one guess. Henderson. Henderson. What? That's what I said. What? Who are these guys? And they're like tops in their field. So this.
When I was a student, we believed that the first platform for artificial intelligence would be robots. Today we know that the first transformative platform for artificial intelligence are cars.
Mobileye developed the most advanced and the most cost-effective system that can understand through a single camera the driving lanes, vehicles, traffic signs, pedestrians.
We came with a disruptive technology. Put one camera behind the rearview mirror, and this one camera is like the third eye.
We develop algorithms that reach human-level perception. So once the camera is sufficiently intelligent, signals can be sent to the car control systems to avoid an accident.
If you're on a collision course with a pedestrian, the car system will break.
This kind of technology will save lives.
Nobody believed that it's possible. There's a system based on a single camera.
A camera sensor, it's really the lowest cost sensor possible.
Cost efficient is a key issue for us. In order to have the system in basically every car around the world, it needs to be an affordable price that you and me and everybody can actually buy.
We did our development for about 8 years. And then we had our first launch of this technology, which is packaged into a chip.
At that point in time, Goldman Sachs invested $130 million in Mobileye. A difficult time.
Goldman Sachs understood the potential of what we do.
In 2007, we spent some time with the management team, and it was very clear that all the key pieces were in place. They had developed the chip, the software was ready, and more importantly, they had actually already won contracts in the automotive industry.
It was clear that this is a company that Goldman Sachs would be excited to work with.
Our investment was really focused on how do they improve their algorithms, how do they improve their processing chip, and keep the advantage that they had over their competitors.
While our competitors had to cut costs, we had enough money to chase every opportunity to expand our technology.
There's no moment that you say, okay, we're finished. The development that we do is endless.
The camera can now control the headlights at night, maintain safe distance to the car in front of you. More and more functionality.
A big part of their competitive advantage is that they have thousands upon thousands of hours testing out their algorithms.
Then the IPO. It was an exciting one because it was the largest Israeli ever IPO in US market.
Ziv and Amnon and the rest of the team always knew how exciting the opportunity ahead was going to be. So it was actually a very simple process, and there was a significant amount of demand.
The story of Mobileye resonated, and it's just a very simple story. It's about automotive safety on a chip that can be essentially put in every car.
The excitement level actually kept getting ramped up and up as people understood how the story is going to play out over a number of years.
It was clear that there is going to be more and more demand. It was clear that regulators would start playing a very, very critical role.
Mobileye's technology we view as just the natural evolution of the seatbelt and anti-lock brakes and airbags. And the final stage of that evolution is when the car will really drive itself.
It's not science fiction. Quite soon, one car manufacturer manufacturer is coming out with hands-free driving in highway conditions. And that will be the point when the technology can guarantee zero accidents.
Imagine how many lives we can save by introducing this kind of technology to the world.
So we know the most dangerous part of the car is the driver. 1.2 million auto deaths per year, around 40,000 in the US. Just a thought. Just a thought. So the class was law and disclosure, 3 parts, and the first part was all about the disclosures, and we spent a lot of time on that. And then the second part was supposed to be about the property, construction defects, KITEC, SRPD, and the third part is about the money. But before we get off this, I just want to make sure, if you go to clarkcounty.nv.gov/pages, you're going to get all these different links to these, like animal control. Kimberly, who'd you say I have to call when there's like weeds in my next door neighbor's yard and there's no HOA? That code enforcement? Yeah, code enforcement, yeah. Code busters, yeah, there you go. So that would be in here. That would be in here. This is a really good resource. I wonder if I should give this URL to my clients, along with who died in the house and EnviroMapper and all that kind of, just a thought. So let's talk about the money. It's on page 7, after the case study you guys just did. The truth in lending, RESPA, integrated disclosure, that TRID thing, what if the estimate changes? Does the lender have to redisclose and make the buyer wait 3 days to close the deal? If it's off, if they disclosed and then they found out there's a mistake, and it comes time the buyer's got to bring in a check, and the check's a lot more than the buyer thought they had to bring in, does the lender have to redisclose? And the answer is yeah, they do. Buyer's got to wait 3 days unless the lender's willing to eat it. It's my understanding that if the lender's willing to take the hit, that they can close anyway. I don't know that that's true. That's a question for Tanya and James. But how does the lender get an appraisal? It's called an AMC, an appraisal management company. The lender has to order the appraisal through an AMC. They do not get to pick the appraiser. They just order the appraisal. It is possible, it is legal, and B of A actually owns their own appraisal management company. So there's no law that says the bank or the lender cannot own the appraisal management company, but they don't get to pick the appraiser. And if the appraiser goes out and says, gee, there's no earthquake straps, there's no smoke detectors, and by the way, there's no door on this closet, and you're getting an FHA loan, I'm going to have to come back out and reappraise. What does that cost? And is the buyer willing to pay it? Or is the seller got to pay? See, the buyer said, I'll pay for the appraisal. It's $100 for a reinspection. And how much time? Does it run over my due diligence period? Shoot. So these are just red flags. And on page 8, there's some other red flags. If there's improvements to the property, were they permitted? How does the roof look? I'm not a roofer, but I can look. And I probably should do a visual inspection of, just like the home inspection going to do. Look, there's some tiles up there. If we have a home inspection out here, they're going to put that on there. If the appraiser comes out, you need to get those fixed before we get the appraiser out here. Why did they only paint one room? Why did they only paint the kitchen? Do you think there might have been a fire in the kitchen? That's the only room they painted. Carol, they only painted one wall in the whole house. And you say, why did you paint that wall? And they say, oh, that's an accent wall. And what's behind the accent wall is the water heater. Did the water heater accent the wall before they painted it? Yeah. But when I take the listing, when I walk through the house, I want to make sure I ask all these questions as much as I can. Because you're supposed to make a reasonable inspection. Anything that's reasonably ascertainable. And that's what the law says. As a real estate agent, anything that's reasonably ascertainable, if it's latent, if it's behind the walls, then you could say, I didn't know. But if you can see that wallboard's got some problems, you got to find out. You got to ask the questions. Because there's a reasonable care standard that we have. And reasonable care on page 8, home warranties. Home warranties, probably your best defense in this area is to help the client review the different policies readily available in the market. Here's the policies, here's the layout, this is what they cover, this is what they don't cover. I use these guys, here's why I use them. I can give you a recommendation, but I'm going to give you like 3 or 4, even though there's no rule of 3, I'm still going to do that. The 2 biggest things to cover are what they don't cover and what is covered. And one of the things that is covered is AC, but what's the limit? IDK is not a good answer. That's not a good answer. What's the limit? Is it 2,500? Is it replacement? What if they need a crane? We're going to replace, we have full replacement coverage on this air conditioner. Oh, but that doesn't include the crane. We got to get it on the second story. So those would be things that I would want my home warranty company to make sure that we know about. The same with the Freon rule. So we got the property, we got disclosures, we got the financing, we got the home warranties, now we have escrow. And since there will be an escrow with every transaction, pretty much, how much should you know? Who picks the title company? Okay, turn to your neighbor and say, the one paying. The one paying. If you're paying for it, you get to pick them. If you're paying for it, you get to pick them. Mr. Seller, I want you to pay my closing costs. Okay, if I'm paying your closing costs, we're going to go to this title company. No, I want this one. Then you pay. No problem. We can go there. You pay. They split the escrow fees, right? But somebody pays for the title insurance. Escrow and title insurance, two different things. The buyer might say, look, I'm paying half, you're paying half, I'm picking. Unless you want to pay the whole thing, Mr. Seller. If you want to pay the whole thing, you can pick. I don't really care. Does the buyer really care where you go to escrow? Oliver, did you ever have a buyer jump up and down and say, we got to go to my friend? Nah, they don't care. They don't care what agent they use either, do they? Nah. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. Last paragraph on page 8, last thing on page 8 is it's called a one sheet on vesting. If they asked you how they should take title, you didn't answer them, right? You would never answer them. You just give them one sheet and say, here's the options in Nevada, talk to the title officer. And then page 9. Does the escrow officer actually talk to them about what's on the prelim? No, I don't think so. I really don't think they do. I think that's the right answer. I don't think they do. Now, if something's on there that shouldn't be on there, then maybe. But I wonder if my escrow officer actually read it. Yeah. And I hope they read it, because I'm not sure they always do. I think they, yeah. What's a binder? Nancy, what's a binder? A binder is a promise to insure. That's one definition. There's more than one definition. A binder is a promise. That's what I'm looking for. There's more than one definition of binder. You're selling the house to a flipper. The seller buys title insurance for them. Then they sell it in 6 months. They don't want to buy title insurance again. If you got them a binder or had them get a binder, they only have to buy the spread. If you're working with an investor that's going to turn the properties and you don't get them a binder, in my opinion, that's incompetence. That is incompetence. It's either negligence on your part because you didn't know, or incompetence because you knew and forgot to make sure they got it. UCC 1, if there's solar on the house. Same thing if there's a really nice water conditioner. Robert, that's a nice water conditioning system. They bought it. They've been in the house 10 years. They paid it off after 5 years. But guess who never removed the lien? The water conditioner company. And guess who's gone out of business? And I can't find them. How the hell do I get a lien release from a company that's been out of business for 5 years? Do what? Go to court? My title officer better help me with that. In fact, I might want to make a couple phone calls when I'm done with this class. Page 10. Page 10. Two last things. The function of training is a change in behavior. If your behavior doesn't change as a result of the training, you didn't really get much out of the training. You got your certificate. I'm going to give you those in a second. But I'm curious, if I said, why should I hire you? Could you come up with 3 things just like that? Just like that? Could you come up with 3 reasons I should hire you just like that? You look like a deer in the headlights. Write it down. 3 reasons real quick. Why should I hire you? 3 reasons. Write them down real quick. Why should I hire you? Where it says recap and review. This is your recap. Okay, somebody give me one, Tina. Give me one reason I should hire you. Because I'm honest. Did anybody write down honest? Did I tell the truth? Okay, cross that out. Sorry. Cross it out. That's no different. Robert, give me one.
Now I don't have any because they're not going to be different.
Okay. Okay. So Oliver, more, better, or different? Do you have anything different on yours? What is it?
Discount, language barrier, location.
Okay, language barrier, discount, location. Okay, location of what? Your office?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean
the
the client.
client?
I mean the distance between clients and the escrow people, for their convenience.
Okay, okay, so convenient, that tastes like chicken. But language barrier, that might be a plus. That might give me a reason to hire you. So,
I'm a specialist,
specialist, okay, in what?
real estate. Because you've got a lot of people trying to do 10 different things.
So what,
Are realtors.
so what do you specialize in?
I specialize in residential sales.
Okay, I'm not sure that's quite segmented enough. And that's the point of this exercise. Are you segmenting enough that you're just not like every other real estate agent out there? Average person, according to NAR, has lived in their house like 9 years now. So if they were a first-time buyer, they've never sold a house. If they have sold a house before, odds are it might have been 9, 10 years ago. They haven't gone through this before, but they're going to be asking themselves that question. When you show up over there, there's 14,000 of you guys. Why should I hire you? And if you don't have a good answer for that, then that's your exercise to work on.
Oh, you're not just gonna walk away from the boss. You can get that. That's yours. Nobody else. Get in there and give it some heat. Give it some heat.
So I need your evals left on the table, and I'll see you in 2 years.